In a world of giants, it takes a special kind of strength to stand tall and be heard. Join us as we tell the epic stories of modern-day titans who fought for their dreams against impossible odds. Subscribe today and find the titan living within yourself.
I was standing at my kitchen sink, rinsing the last of the collard greens, when my phone buzzed against the counter. I dried my hands on the dish towel, the old blue one my late husband Earl gave me the Christmas before he passed, and picked it up without looking at the screen. I already knew who it was. My son Marcus had been calling every Sunday at 4 o'clock for the past 11 years, ever since Earl died, and I told him, "You are the man of this family now. Act like it." I am 63 years old. I worked 31 years as a licensed vocational nurse, put in the overtime, saved the money, bought the house, paid off the car, and when Marcus needed help with his first apartment after graduate school, I wrote the check without blinking. I am not a woman who complains about what she does for her children. I did it because I wanted to. But I am also not a woman who forgets. "Hey, Mom," he said. There was something careful in his voice, the kind of careful that tells you a person has been rehearsing. "Hey, baby," I said. I turned off the faucet and leaned against the counter. "What's going on?" He cleared his throat. "So, Patrice and I have been talking with her mother about the rehearsal dinner. Patrice is my son's fiancée. They had been together 4 years when he proposed last spring, and I will be honest with you, I liked her well enough in the beginning. She was polite when she needed to be, quiet in a way I mistook for good manners. Her mother, Donna, was a different story from the first time I met her. She came to Marcus and Patrice's apartment for dinner wearing a fur stole in September, and spent the entire evening talking about a trip to Tuscany like she was reading from a brochure. She shook my hand and then looked past my shoulder before I had even finished introducing myself. But I kept my mouth shut. My Marcus loved this woman's daughter, and I was not going to be the reason for trouble. "Okay," I said. "What about the rehearsal dinner?" "Well, Donna has some ideas about the seating. For the dinner and for the ceremony." "All right." She's thinking, and Patrice agrees that it might flow better if the parents are seated kind of by their own side. Like her family together, my family together. I waited. Because there was more. I could hear it sitting in the silence between his words. And for the ceremony, Donna was thinking the front rows should be close family. Like, her side has a lot of aunts and cousins who are flying in from out of town, and they need to be up front. So, "Marcus," I set down the dish towel. "Where am I sitting?" He was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. I counted. "Row 5, he said. I did not raise my voice. "I want you to understand that. I am not a woman who yells, because I learned a long time ago that a quiet woman in full control of herself is far more frightening than a screaming one." "Row 5, I repeated. "It's not that far back, Mom. You'll still be able to see everything. I am paying for this wedding, Marcus." Silence. I had been paying for it since February. The venue deposit, $12,000. The caterer's first installment, $4,000. The florist, $2,200. I had written every check with my own name because Donna had told Marcus that her family was going through a difficult financial season, and Marcus had come to me with his eyes soft, the way they used to get when he was 9 years old and wanted something. And I had said yes, because he was my son. Because Earl was not there to walk him down any road, and I had been walking it for him since the day we buried his father. "Mom, I'll call you tomorrow," I said, and I hung up. I stood at that kitchen sink for a long time after. The greens were sitting in the colander. The window above the sink looks out onto my backyard. The one Earl and I planted together, the magnolia, he said, would never survive a Texas winter, and it has survived 11 of them since he left. I looked at that tree and I breathed. I did not cry. I thought about it. But I didn't. What I did instead was something Donna had not accounted for. I got still. And when I get still, I get smart. I started paying attention. The next 3 weeks, I watched. I went to the cake tasting because Marcus asked me to. And I sat at that table in the bakery, while Donna described, in detail, the 4-tier design she had already selected before I arrived. She did not ask my opinion. When the baker turned to me and said, "And what do you think, Mom?" but using that word like it was meant for me, Donna cut in and said, "We've already decided, I think." She smiled when she said it. That was the part that stayed with me. She always smiled. I drove home and I made a note in my phone. Just the date and one sentence. Cake design chosen without my input. I was present. I know that sounds small. But I have learned that small things, documented, become big things when the time is right. 2 weeks before the wedding, Patrice called me herself. That was unusual. Patrice had not called me directly in 4 months. Her voice was warm in a performance sort of way. The kind of warm that has been coached. Miss Carroll. She said she had called me Miss Carroll since the beginning, and I had long since stopped waiting for that to change. We wanted to talk to you about the program. What about it? So, in the wedding program, we're listing the parents, and we wanted to ask if you'd be okay with us listing you as Marcus's mother rather than, well, Donna had an idea that since she and my dad are covering a lot of the coordination, I stopped her right there. Patrice, what is Donna's idea? Exactly. A pause. She thought it might be elegant to just list the immediate hosts of the event, which would be her and my dad. And then you'd be acknowledged separately. Acknowledged separately, I said. In my own son's wedding program. We just thought. Send me the draft, I said. I'd like to see it. She sent it that evening. I am not exaggerating when I tell you that my name appeared in a section titled Additional Family, beneath Donna and her husband, beneath Patrice's 2 sisters, beneath Donna's mother, who was 81 years old and lived in a memory care facility. My name, Carol Denise Washington. The woman who had written more than $18,000 in checks for this event. I saved the document to my phone. I saved it to my laptop. I printed a copy and put it in the folder I had started keeping in the drawer beside my bed. Evidence isn't about revenge. I want to be clear about that. At this point, I still wasn't planning anything. I was just a woman who had lived 63 years and learned that you never walk into a situation without your receipts. It was a Tuesday evening when I found out the rest. Marcus came over for dinner, just the 2 of us. The way we used to do every other week before Patrice. I made his favorite, the short ribs and cornbread Earl, used to request every birthday. And we sat at my dining room table, the one that has 6 chairs because I always believed in having room for people. And my son looked down at his food and said, Mom, I need to tell you something. I folded my hands. Donna has been talking to Patrice about after the wedding, about where we settle. Finances, things like that. He picked up his fork and put it down again. She wants Patrice to. She's been saying that Patrice should protect herself. Financially. A prenuptial agreement, I said. He looked up. Yeah. Is that what Patrice wants? She says it's just practical. I looked at my son. He is 34 years old. He has Earl's jaw and my eyes, and a heart that is too good for its own protection, which is something I both love and fear about him. What does the agreement say? I asked. He was quiet. Marcus, what does it say? He pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. I read it slowly. I read it twice. The agreement drafted by a firm I did not recognize, which I noted included a clause that in the event of divorce, any financial contributions made to the couple by either family prior to the marriage would be considered gifts and could not be claimed. It also included a clause designating Donna's family home, which Patrice stood to inherit, as a separate asset, which is normal. That part is normal. What was not normal was a clause near the end, a clause that referred to any future estate from Marcus's side, meaning from me as potentially subject to joint management by both spouses and their designated family advisors. Donna had written herself into my son's financial future, and Patrice had signed it, and Marcus had not told me until he was sitting at my table eating my short ribs. I slid the phone back across the table. I picked up my fork. I ate 3 bites of cornbread. When are you supposed to sign? I asked. They want it done before the end of the month. And you came to tell me. Yeah. His voice broke, just slightly. Mom, I don't know how I got here. I keep trying to figure out when things changed and I can't. Baby, I said. I reached across the table and put my hand over his. I'm glad you told me. I need you to go home tonight and do not sign anything. Can you do that? He nodded. And I need you to trust me. He nodded again. After he left, I sat at that table for a long time. I was not angry. I want you to understand I had moved through the anger weeks ago, in that kitchen, looking at my magnolia. What I felt now was something cleaner, clarity. The kind that comes when you finally see the whole shape of a thing. I went to bed. And in the morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first call was to my attorney. I have had the same attorney for 19 years, a woman named Patricia who does not mince words and charges accordingly. I told her what I had, the checks, the dates, the program draft, the prenuptial clause. She was quiet for a moment and then she said, "Carol, what do you want to do?" "I want to know my options," I said. She told me. We talked for 40 minutes. When I hung up, I knew exactly what I was doing. The second call was to the venue coordinator. I had signed the contract. My name was on it. I asked her, in a polite and professional tone, what the process was for releasing a reservation. She explained it to me. I thanked her and told her I would be in touch within 48 hours. The third call was to Marcus. "I need you to come over," I said. "Tonight. Don't bring Patrice. Don't tell Donna you're coming. Just come." He arrived at 7. He sat down on the couch, the same couch he used to fall asleep on as a little boy watching movies, and I sat across from him in Earl's chair and I told him everything. Calmly, completely. I showed him the folder. I showed him the program draft. I showed him the checks with the dates. I showed him what Patricia had explained to me about the prenuptial clause and what it would mean for his inheritance, for my assets, for the decisions I was still legally entitled to make with my own estate. I watched my son's face change. There is no other way to describe it. It was like watching a man come out of a fog. Not all at once, it happened slowly. Across the 40 minutes we sat together. He kept saying, "But she didn't say that," and then going quiet again as the pieces connected. "I am not telling you what to do," I said when I was done. "You are a grown man. You can marry whoever you choose. But I need you to understand what you are walking into. And I need you to understand that I cannot continue funding a wedding that is being built on my erasure." He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said, "What did you do with the venue?" "I haven't done anything yet," I said. "I told you I'm not making your decisions, but I need an answer before Friday, because that is when I have to make mine." He went home. I did not sleep well, but I slept. Thursday evening, my phone rang. It was not Marcus. It was Donna. I almost did not answer. Then I decided I wanted to hear what she had to say. "Carol," she said. She said my name the way you say a word in a foreign language, when you're not sure of the pronunciation, like she'd had to remind herself of it before dialing. "I think we need to clear the air." "I'm listening," I said. "I understand there's been some concern about the wedding arrangements. And I want you to know that nothing was intended to make you feel unwelcome." "Row 5, I said. It was a seating logistics question. "Donna." My voice was the same tone I used for 31 years when a patient or a family member was telling me something that was not true. Steady. Patient. Final. I have been a nurse for over 3 decades. I know the difference between logistics and a decision. "What would you like to talk about?" Silence. And then her voice changed just slightly. The performance slipped an inch. "Marcus is very important to Patrice," she said. "And Patrice's future is very important to me. As my son's future is to me," I said. "I think it would be better for everyone if this wedding went smoothly." "I think so too," I said. "And I think what would make it go most smoothly would be if the woman who financed it were listed in her proper place, seated in her proper place, and not written into financial arrangements she was never informed of." I paused. "But that's just my perspective." Another silence. Longer this time. "I'll talk to Patrice," she said. "You do that," I said. "Have a good evening." I hung up. And then I sat with the phone in my lap, and I let myself smile. Just for a moment. Just for me. Marcus called Friday morning. "Mom," he said. "I talked to Patrice last night. We talked for a long time." He stopped. I asked her some things I should have asked a long time ago. About the prenup. About the seating. About a lot of things. "I waited," she cried, he said. And at first I thought that meant I was wrong, but then she stopped crying and started explaining. And the explanations were Mom. The explanations were about what was good for her mother's peace of mind and what worked for her family's comfort. And I kept waiting for her to say something about what was good for us. For me. And she didn't. I closed my eyes. I'm not getting married in 3 weeks, he said. I breathed. I'm not canceling because of money, he said quickly. I need you to know that. I'm not. This isn't about what you were going to do with the venue. This is because I looked at the woman I'm supposed to spend my life with, and I asked her to choose me, and she didn't. Oh, Marcus, I said. I know, he said. I know. We sat on the phone together quietly for a moment. Two people who had both loved the same man and lost him, and who had been finding their way without him for over a decade. Are you okay? I asked. I'm going to be, he said. Are you? I've been okay since Wednesday, I said. I was just waiting on you. He laughed a real laugh, the kind that is also a little bit of a cry, and I laughed too. And it was the most like Earl I had heard him sound in a long time. I did release the venue reservation. Patrice's family was given the option to rebook under their own name and at their own cost. They chose not to. The florist was released as well. The caterer applied my deposit to a future booking that I later used for Marcus's birthday dinner, a real one. 60 people. My whole family around tables that had more than enough room. Donna never called me again. I did not expect her to. Patrice and Marcus did not speak for several months. That was hard to watch. I am not going to pretend it wasn't. My son is not a man who detaches easily, and the quiet of those months sat on him in a way I recognized because I had worn it myself after Earl. But he came through it. He came over for dinner. He called on Sundays. Slowly, he came back to himself. About a year later, he met a woman at a work conference in Atlanta. Her name is Renee. She is a physical therapist who grew up in Memphis, and the first time I met her, she came to my house with a sweet potato pie she had made herself, and she sat at my kitchen table and asked me about Earl like she wanted to know him, not to be polite, because she wanted to understand who Marcus came from. I watched her with my son, and I saw the way he sat differently. Easy. Like himself. I thought about Donna's first stole and her Tuscany stories, and the way she had shaken my hand and looked past my shoulder, and I thought some people see a woman like me and they see a problem to manage, an inconvenience to redirect. To row 5. They don't understand that a woman who has survived what I have survived, who has raised a son alone, who has written the checks and kept the receipts, and stayed quiet when the quiet was strategic, that woman is not someone you move to the back. She is the whole reason there is a front. I wiped my hands on my dish towel. I went back to my collard greens, and I thanked God, quietly, for the patience he had given me, and for the son I had raised well enough that, when it counted, he found his way back.